All right. Yeah, it usually takes a minute for YouTube to get going, but it looks like we're okay. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. It is a pleasure to welcome you to another video here on YouTube. In this video, I will keep it short. I've been doing this lately, just talking maybe for the first 15 minutes or so, providing the lesson, and then the rest of the time I'll be answering questions. So if you have any questions at all, just post them here in the chat, and I should see them as they come up. Hopefully chat is working right now. But hopefully you are enjoying your day. Hala, nice to see you there. So in this video, I want to talk about the feeling is the secret, the feeling that you get when you're learning something. That's really what you're looking for, what you should be looking for as you learn. I will often get questions from people, nice to see you there, Yale, from people asking about particular methods. So they say, does shadowing work, or should I repeat after people, or what video or TV series should I watch in order to get fluent? The truth is, it doesn't really matter. A lot of these things can help you, but the important thing is understanding what you learn, and you know you're understanding when you get a certain feeling about learning. I'll give you some examples of that. What? Nice to see you there. Hello. What? Hello. So I'll give some examples in this video, but I wanted to talk very first about just a quick story that happened to me very recently. I told subscribers about this. So I was at an onsen, or not an onsen, but a sento. So this is a public bath here in Japan, and I was at my locker getting some stuff out, and then I heard a voice behind me say, "Excuse me." And I turned around, and it was a kind of older Japanese guy. Probably he was maybe, I would say maybe 50, like older than 50, or maybe even 60 years old. I didn't really get a good look at him. But he said, "Excuse me," and I was surprised because his pronunciation was very good. Often Japanese pronunciation, you will hear like excuse me in Japanese, because that's the way most people are learning in Japan, the way they're learning English. But he said, "Excuse me," very smooth, "Excuse me, excuse me," very simple, very smooth, very natural. And I said, in Japanese, "Do you speak English?" I was surprised just because of the pronunciation. I said, "Oh, do you speak English?" And he said, "I can get by. I can get by. I can get by." And I thought, oh wow, I was very, very surprised to hear this expression, because usually even Japanese people that can pronounce things pretty well, they will just say a little. I'd say maybe 98% of Japanese people, when I ask, "Do you speak English?" Well, actually, it's probably not 98%. It's pretty high. Usually, I will hear, like, if they can speak, they will say aritoru, aritoru. So again, that Japanese pronunciation aritoru, but in English, a little. So I can speak a little English. So can you speak English? A little. This is a perfectly fine way to respond to that. But I can get by is very natural, much more interesting, and it really shows that this guy knew what he was talking about. So he knew a lot of English, and he was being maybe a little bit modest. But I was so surprised by what he said, I didn't really respond. I was just happy to be surprised, and just enjoyed that, and then he walked away after that. So he got his things out of the locker next to mine, and he walked away. Anyway, so this expression, "I can get by," I was just teaching this as something for my subscribers to use as a really good way to respond to that very common question. So if people ask you, "Do you speak English?" or "Can you speak English?" you can use "I can get by." I can get by. Now, I wanted to talk about the feeling. So the feeling is the secret for fluency. It doesn't really matter how you learn. You could learn this phrase in a video like this, or you could read it somewhere, or you could hear it on the radio or in a TV show. It doesn't really matter. The point is whether you understand that or not. And so some people might not get this. To get by, and of course we have a siren like usual. So I can get by. To get by, if you think about the idea, let's say we're looking down on a hallway, like there's a person trying to walk and he's walking this way. So just walking, you're looking at it from the top down, and there's maybe some box or something in the way. So you can't really walk easily down here, but he can kind of squeeze over here and he can get by this box. So he can get, that's an E, get by. So he can get by the box. I can get by someone if I'm walking. So I'm walking like this and I can get by. So if you're just walking normally, there's no box, there's nothing stopping you, you just walk. But if you have to get around something, you can get by, all right? So the first time you hear something like that, usually a phrasal verb, especially young children, some young native English speaking kids are learning phrasal verbs. They're learning the basic language and they learn it visually like this. So they see examples. I'm trying to, can I get by you for a moment? Pardon me, I'm trying to get by you, right quick. So I'm trying to get by someone, and now once you understand this, you can take it to a higher level, a more figurative use of the word. So instead of I can get by like physically, we can get by something mentally, like we want to talk about a score in a test or your ability to do something. So let's say we have just a very simple graph here of maybe the grade that you need to show, like the passing grade here. You might have an A. I don't know if every country uses this grading scale, but very simply in English speaking, like in the United States, maybe in, I don't know if England uses this also, but everybody has a grading scale like this. So you might A, B, C, D, F. We don't have an E grade. I don't know why. But we go A, B, C, D, and F. If you get an F, oh, that's really bad. That's failure. So you definitely failed the class. Usually you need a pretty good grade. So if you're okay at doing something, you can get by. Getting by is like at this level. So you're just good enough to be okay. You're okay at that thing. But this guy was using the expression, I can get by. He was being modest. So being modest. So he wasn't boasting and saying, yeah, I'm a really great speaker. He was just, yeah, I can get by. I can get by. I can get by. I can get by. But you see how the feeling you get when you see the physical example, like, okay, I understand what's happening. So it's the feeling of understanding that lets you use something. So you feel confident. You don't have doubt about what the word means or what the phrase or expression means, and then you feel much more confident about using it. So it's the feeling that you should be looking for. So when you're thinking about a TV show to watch or it doesn't really matter what the thing is. So it's like the basic idea is that a video could be good for you or it could be bad for you for learning. The important thing is, does it give you the feeling of learning something? Do you feel like you understood something? So if you have two videos and one of them helps you understand like a native, it answers your questions and it removes the doubt that you have about learning. So maybe you have a doubt about pronunciation or vocabulary or grammar, something like that. If you feel doubt at the end of the video, then the video was not helpful for you. Or if you watch even an English TV series like Friends or Seinfeld or whatever, some show like that, if you don't understand what you're watching, you're only going to be more frustrated by that. So you really need to get, until you get that feeling that you really understood something, then it's, again, not the video or the book or the newspaper or shadowing or whatever kind of thing you're doing. It's whether you understand the content or not. That's the most important thing. So it doesn't matter how you get it as long as you understand something. So I will learn things in Japanese from people, like in a conversation I would hear something, and in a TV show I might hear something, but usually the different things work together. So you might have, like the first time you hear something, maybe you just kind of understand it a little bit. So you just hear a phrase, or you see it on like in a book or a magazine, something like that. And the first time you hear it and you're like, oh, that's interesting, I think I understood something, but you don't yet feel confident using that expression. All right? So the first time you hear something, if you only hear it once, if you stop right here, you will probably forget that word or phrase. So you might hear something, even if you understand it, you will probably forget that. You'll forget that word or phrase. And so that's why you need to hear something or see it or experience it in different ways again and again and again. So it's not just hearing the exact same thing, it's really getting to the understanding. And often you will need a few different examples of something to really understand it. So like the example of get by, if you just hear like the get by example that's kind of at a higher level, like I can get by in math. So I can get by in math. Or I can get by in Swahili, like if I can speak a little bit. Yeah, I can get by, I can speak with people. You might not understand what this means if you just heard that example. But if you heard a more basic one first, if you saw the visual example, get by, like I need to get by, I can't quite get by here, I need to move out of the way, I have just enough space to get around that thing, I can get by, I can get around it. Or you can ask someone else, oh, do you have enough space? Like your car is here, and there's maybe just a little bit of space to come out here, oh, can you get by? So I'm asking, like, is it possible for you to move out of the way? Am I blocking you? So can you get by? And as you hear these different examples, that's when you really have the feeling. The feeling comes when you get that moment of understanding. It could be the first time you hear something. Some things are quite easy to understand, but you still can't really use it fluently because it's really just in your passive vocabulary until you really understand it. But it's that feeling that there's like a click. Ah, I got it. That feeling of understanding, all right? Is this making sense? I'm not seeing any comments. I'm just seeing some people saying hello. Nice to see you there, Manuel. I'm going to go back and answer some questions. We've been going for about 12 minutes so far, but hopefully everybody understands this. Again, it's not a particular method that you might use. There isn't really a method. It's just, do you understand or do you do not, or do you not understand? All right, so let me look back, see if anybody has any questions or comments over here. Looks like, yeah, nice to see you. It looks like that was my uncle. Enjoying here, let's see. If I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, let me know. That's, again, as you're learning, I might mispronounce somebody's name just because I don't know what that is, but I am, let's see. So from Kiat, I am from Thailand. Do you think that we should study English grammar to make us speak or not? Which one is better between studying and not studying? Okay, so this is a question that it's not really like a real question, just like I explained before about should you watch a TV series or not? Should you read books or not? Should you play a game or not? Should you listen to music or not? All right? None of those things it's not like books are good or bad. It's just what are you doing with the book, or what book are you using? And so the important thing is it giving you benefit? Can you understand something? And that's really the important thing. So I spoke in, I think, maybe the last video I did here, I was talking about grammar, but grammar is very important. I think it's the most important thing you should be learning because your pronunciation might be inaccurate. Maybe you have a mistake here or there, or you have an accent, which is fine. Most people do. But the important thing is that in a conversation, people can understand what you're saying. So as long as people can understand your pronunciation, that's fine. But your grammar is the most important thing, especially when you're trying to communicate something. You need to be accurate in the way you speak. But the important thing is not to sit and try to study grammar rules. It's to understand grammar by just getting lots of different examples the same way natives do. So in this, I explained, just because many people watching this are English learners, they know what the term phrasal verb means. But most native English speakers do not. So English speakers would not know what a phrasal verb is, but they can use them just fine. So that's the important thing. It's not about studying grammar rules or knowing grammar terms, like the names of what this is. You just want to understand it so you can use it fluently. And the point of this video is that you get a feeling, there's a feeling that comes when you understand something. It's like, I got it, now I can use it fluently, okay? Now, so of course you should be learning grammar, really that's very important, but again, how you learn it is very important. And so what I do on my channel is help people understand like a native, like giving you these examples here. So the point is to give you the feeling you should feel when you watch one of my videos. You should feel like you're learning something, like I feel more fluent. It's a feeling you have. I'll give you another example of this if people need one, but let me know. All right, now it says, does it take more than 20 years to reach C2 level? 20 years to reach C2? I don't think so. All right, let's talk very quickly about fluency and what this means. So fluency, it's your ability to understand and then use something without thinking about it. So without having to translate or think about grammar rules or something like that. And children, so I have two daughters. They are 7 years old and the second one is almost 4. She'll be 4 in January. And both of them, they can speak fluently without, depending on what you mean by like a particular like vocabulary level, they might not know as much as someone with a C level or whatever. I mean, obviously there's ability to speak and then there's the size of the vocabulary. But for me, the more important thing is actual communication rather than knowing more difficult words, because I know many students who know a lot of vocabulary, but they can't speak. And often I will meet even Japanese speakers who, so these are like native Japanese people who know a lot of English but still can't communicate fluently. They actually know a lot of high-level words, but when you have a conversation with them, they're still thinking about things and you can see that they're translating. So it doesn't take 20 years to do this because children can learn to speak much faster. And the only difference is that children are learning this way. So they're understanding like a native rather than trying to study a bunch of words and phrases. All right. Let's see, good question though. So there are several meanings in get by. I just entered here. Did you already explain all of them? Yeah, and so again, when you learn like a native, the point is not to learn every use of a particular word or phrase. So I might use like the word. We talked about this in a recent video also, like as. So when I teach my daughters, I'm not saying, okay, today we're going to learn the word as, and then every use of the word as. Now this would not help them learn. They might remember a little bit, but this is not necessary for them to use as fluently. What we do instead is actually we take something like as and we're going to focus on just a particular thing, and that comes from a situation. So it's not like I wouldn't begin with a word like this. I begin with a situation and then the word is in that situation. For example, I work as a coach. So here we have, I work as a coach. And I would give them lots of examples of this for this specific usage of as, okay? So I work as a coach. And I'm not, again, trying to teach them many different uses of it. I want them to really master and understand this. So maybe I would give them like 20 different uses. And when I'm at home, I don't sit in front of a whiteboard like this and teach them. Sometimes I will write things down on a paper or actually a board that I have at home just so they can see what the word is. But I usually just give them lots of examples. So when I was younger, I worked as like an ice cream salesman. or I worked as a manager at a department store, or whatever. So I'm giving them lots of examples of this particular situation. So the vocabulary comes from the situation. We begin with the situation, not the vocabulary. All right, I talk about this a lot because it's very important, but people need to hear this again and again because learners are usually, they begin with a word in their language. So if I'm a Japanese learner studying English, I might begin with like a particular word in Japanese. So I start with the Japanese word and then I translate that into English and then I wonder, okay, how do I use this, or what does this mean? And so instead of doing this is using a translation. And remember, if you learn through translations, you will speak through translations. So you don't want to do this. You don't want to begin with your language and think about what you want to say and then learn a word and then try to learn all the uses of it. This is how you prepare for a test, but it doesn't help you speak. I actually don't recommend this for test preparation either, but if you just want to know the fastest way to do something for a test, this is how you would do it. But instead, the native way is to begin with a situation and you hear a new word or phrase like, as, or like in Japanese, like an example, I know probably many people do not speak Japanese on this stream, or they're watching this, but you might hear, like, one of the first things I learned in Japanese was like, nai to ikenai, like tabenai to ikenai. It's like, I have to eat. And the first time I hear that, I was like, I didn't quite understand what it meant. It was someone just said very quickly, tabenai to ikenai. And I was like, okay, I know taberu, like that means to eat. Like, what does that rest of that mean? Tabenai to ikenai. And there are even different words or different ways of saying that, because natives always use multiple ways of speaking. And so instead of trying to take that like nai to ikenai construction and say, okay, like, how do you use this? It was more like, what is the situation? And I thought about it and like, oh, they have to do something. So and I'm not trying to translate. I just want to understand really what's going on. Like, someone looks late. Ikanai to ikenai. I have to go. So they're using that, and I'm looking for, again, multiple examples that help me understand something. That's what gives me the feeling of fluency. It's like, I got it. You're looking for that feeling, and this could come from a video or a book or a TV show or whatever, a radio, a podcast, it doesn't matter. The point is, do you understand something or not? All right? So we don't want to focus on individual words and phrases. We want to begin with understanding like a native from situations. All right, let's see. So yes, son, okay, hopefully I explained that for you. So yes, there are different meanings of that, but we don't want to try to like memorize all those. All right, so Manuel says, I already trashed. All right, so you trashed all of my grammar books. What is the difference between what you do and what is the difference between what do you do and what do you do now? Oh, what do you do? All right, Mandeep, I don't quite understand that question. If you mean like a greeting, you're asking somebody about that. What do you do and what do you do now? Adding the now doesn't really change anything about the question. If you're just talking to a native speaker, or you're asking someone, oh, what do you do? I might say, what do you do now, if they talked about something previously and I want to make it clear I'm asking what do they do currently. You can use that as well if you're asking about somebody's work. So what do you do? But there's no real difference about it. How do people learn so many phrasal verbs? So people learn phrasal verbs visually. So I might like take my hand and flip it over. And children learn them visually, just like I was giving the example with get by. So I'm trying to get from one place to another. Get means to like take a position or hold something or control it in some way, to get that thing. But I'm trying to get a position. I want to get by something else. So if there's a tree or another person or something, I want to get around them. So that's another idea. So you have a person here and there's a tree or something, you want to get around that thing. I want to get around that person. And children, they learn all of these things from situations. So they begin with the situation, they learn the vocabulary that goes for that situation, and then they learn other uses of those things as well. So sometimes, like a child might learn the word night. Like they know day and night, but they also might learn later the word night. So it's the same sound. This is a homonym. It's got the same sound, homonym, night and night, but this one has a K at the front of it, silent K. And so they learn one thing. So we don't learn just like one sound. We focus on this thing, and then they add other meanings or other words or other things like that as they learn more. But the point is to focus on a particular thing and not try to learn every word that sounds the same. So we don't begin with a sound and try to learn all the meanings for that sound. We learn one thing at a time and understand it for the situation. All right, let's see here. All right, lots of questions over here. Very good. Your topic reminds me of the feeling of doing grammar quiz. Like there are options to choose. Example, I see, I saw, seen, and feel. That C is the right one. LL assumption. Who can relate? Yes. So this is similar. This is the when you develop this is called like the sense of understanding or the feeling. I just call it the feeling of fluency. So when you understand something, you know what feels right and what feels wrong or it feels funny. And the point is really to develop this sense, a sense of correctness, which is another way of describing. It's just the same thing, where you're thinking, does that feel right? Because you've heard it so many times. And so natives usually describe things by situations. And so if I say, what does this word mean? So if you ask a native, what does as mean? They won't really be able to answer that question. They will tell you, okay, in this situation, maybe you use it like this, and they would have to think about it that way. So they're trying to think backwards. They have a sense of, okay, I use as in this situation, and this is how we use it. All right. So you're correct that it's the feeling you get of something, and you develop that like, okay, we should use this word rather than that word because you get the feeling first. But the feeling comes from understanding things through situations. All right, what else we got here? Johnny says, I have two different teachers. The first one is C1, the second is B2, therefore I have to focus on my grammar. I don't understand if that's a question or you're just asking me something. I've learned a lot of English with Drew. Glad to hear it. Yoam de la Rosa. Thank you. Glad to hear it. Hi, Drew. It seems that phrasal verbs are something like math because the teachers take a long time to explain or speak about that. Well, again, what's really funny is that you will have a person who's an English teacher, so someone who teaches the language professionally. That's what they do. Maybe they've gone to school, they get a master's degree in teaching, whatever, and on YouTube, they will teach one way. So imagine just a YouTube teacher who says, okay, today we are going to learn some phrasal verbs, and they draw some phrasal verbs, and then they give you the definitions of those phrasal verbs. But at home, they will go to their own children and they will teach them differently. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Why would you teach adults one way and then teach your own kids a different way? So the way I teach my kids at home is the same way I teach you. We begin with a situation so you can really understand something, and then we start layering on that to layer on. It's like a cake. We're going to put the basic understanding so you understand it visually, usually through a simple story or a basic example, and then we start adding more difficult things to that. So the teaching of phrasal verbs isn't a complicated thing, but most people make it complicated or they make it hard to understand because they're beginning with a phrasal verb and then trying to give you like a translation or a definition, something like that. All right? But what you should be doing is beginning with a situation, like a visual example of how something works. And I've noticed over my time on YouTube, more people are trying to do that. So more people are using visual examples. So I started on YouTube back in 2010 because the whole point of a video example like this is to show people how something works. Most video lessons on YouTube for learning English, it's just a digital textbook. It's actually a textbook in a visual format. And you can hear somebody, just like you can hear a teacher in a classroom write something up on a board. And you can do that in a classroom, or you can watch a YouTube video, but that's not really using getting the value of video, where you get to show someone the motion, especially things like phrasal verbs, because they actually require you to move in a certain way, or to understand something like that. It's much faster and easier to learn that way. Right. Let's see. Hector says, hello, Drew. You can just use either, but what is the difference with neither, please? Either versus you just use either. Well, you're with either and neither, and again, it's better to understand it from a situation rather than try to look at just the vocabulary by itself. But when I'm teaching this to my daughters, like I will have now lessons are even more fun at home, because both of my daughters, they can speak, and it's easy to have like a lesson. So you got me. Imagine me like the taller one here, and then like my older daughter, she's 7. Oh no. And my younger daughter, who is 3. And I can give lessons to both of them and explain things. And so I say, I like cake. Now, Aria, so my older daughter, might say, oh, me too. And Noelle, my younger daughter, likes to copy that. So she says, oh, me too. And we're not doing like a real lesson. This is just real life talking, and they understand what I'm saying when I explain something to them. So I like cake. Very simple. You don't need a complicated grammar lesson to understand this. So I like cake. Me too. Me too. Now maybe I say, I don't like, I don't know, what do I not like? Let's say I don't like sushi, for example. I don't like sushi. I actually do like sushi, but for the example, let's imagine I don't like sushi. So here I say, I don't like sushi. Now, my kids are actually kind of young. Usually Japanese kids do not have actual sushi for quite a while. But maybe Aria says like, oh, maybe she disagrees with me and she says like, oh, like, well, I like sushi. So I like. And Noelle can hear the example. So I don't like sushi, and she says, well, I like sushi. But maybe she agrees with me, and she says, I don't like sushi either. I don't like sushi either. I don't like sushi either. So, and Noelle is starting to get the example like, okay, so Daddy doesn't like something, and Ari doesn't like something, but we don't say too. We don't say, I don't like sushi too. I don't like sushi too. We say, I don't like it either. And Noelle is not thinking about grammar points. She's just thinking, in this situation, what vocabulary are people using? That's how they're learning it, all right? So she's not focusing on to or either or something like that. And you could use this like, I don't like sushi either. Or you could also say, remember, there are often multiple ways to say something. So I say, I don't like sushi, and Aria says, neither. Neither do I. Neither do I. So I don't like sushi, neither do I. Neither do I. So it's like not and either are at the same time. So I don't like it either, or neither do I. Okay? So when you're learning vocabulary like this, don't begin with the word neither. Begin with the situation and see if you can understand it the same way natives do. And often you will use, you can say me neither. Again, there's another way of saying that. So natives, remember, we begin with the situation because there are always multiple ways of saying something. All right, that's the important thing. If you learn from a textbook, then or a regular English teacher will give you a single example or maybe one example or two examples of something, but in real life there is a much broader range of things that people will use in real conversations. So you can say neither do I, me neither, and we will go back and forth. I will kind of train them at home with this kind of teaching. So I will say, oh, like, I don't like this, and then we go back and forth until everybody gets it. And when Noel starts using it correctly, we know everybody understands. All right? So that's how we know, like, the feeling they get, like, I can see that in their face. Or Aria or Noel will say, I got it. And now they know, like, Daddy, I got it. I got it. I got it. And they learn this phrase from seeing people like understand something. So like, I got it, I understand, okay? So they could say I understand, but kids usually speak more simply, I got it, all right? I'm spending a lot of time on this, but the point is, every example you get, it should be beginning with a situation and thinking about when people use something, all right? All right, let's go back. Getting a lot of questions over here. I'm going to have to be faster. All right, hopefully that understands. Hello, how to differentiate between the use of rather and rather. I prefer that rather. I prefer that over. There's not really a difference like this or that, or this rather than that, or this instead of that thing. It's not like one is better than the other. Natives will just use these different expressions. And again, if you begin with a situation, you will hear different natives say different things. So I like this rather than that. So I like pasta rather than fish. I prefer pasta to fish. Or I prefer pasta over fish. So some people might say, like, I like one more than the other. I like pasta more than fish. And some natives will say, I like it over. This over that. It's just another native way of saying that. And again, you can find different natives are saying things in different ways, and then they will hear, or you will hear, okay, maybe this is an easier phrase, I can remember that one, but you will be aware of these other phrases. So I might prefer one thing to that thing. But again, the important thing is you begin with the situation. So what's happening, what are people talking about, and then we get to the vocabulary from that. All right. Anything else here? I'd like to know the difference between fun and funny. Well, funny is like, like I'm laughing, it's making me laugh. But fun, it could just be like, oh, I'm listening to some music and it's making me feel good. So I might enjoy a song, but I'm not laughing at that song. All right, let's see. Should I listen a particular accent of English, or should I focus on the variety, British, American, Australia? In my opinion, there are two ways to do this. Like, the first one is if you have an immediate need for like a particular kind of English. As an example, I work in a factory in the United Kingdom, and I'm speaking with a particular kind of speaker. Like in that case, then I don't care about learning American English or something else, like just for understanding everyday life for me. So when I came to Japan and I was learning Japanese with a team of Japanese gardeners, so that was part of the way I was learning, I'm learning, like I had to focus on their particular accents and listen to what they were saying and learn that way. But if I'm trying to learn and have conversations with lots of different people, maybe I have customers in different countries and I have to do meetings or other things with an international team, then I'd want to listen to different examples. But again, you want to get different examples of the same thing. So when I hear like, I don't like sushi, I would want to hear that from 10 different people. So a British person says, I don't like sushi, Australian person, and even different accents within those countries. So it just depends on what your particular focus is for your, immediate goal or your immediate life or whatever. All right, let's go through. Did I miss anybody else here? Mandy says, somebody's car is damaged, so I will ask, what do you do now? Like, how will you handle the situation? In that case, you would say, what will you do? Or what will you do now? Yeah, it means it's the same thing. There's no real difference there. How I must use correctly the word fairly. Could you please give me some examples? All right, this is again like beginning with a word like fairly and then trying to think about like all the examples that you might, it's much easier to understand the idea of like fair, and there are even different meanings of that. So almost like many words have multiple meanings. So let's begin even with a word like fair. So fair. Like even just the sound of it, like we could have, like there's like fair, like am I going to the fair, like the carnival, or is something fair, like if we have like a seesaw like this, we put, like something over here on that side and something over here. Like that would be fair. So I get, one thing and you get the same thing. But if I get, like two of these things and now the seesaw goes down like that, that's unfair. So it's unfair like that. And then you will even still have more examples of like to do something in a fair way. And that would be like I feel it's like a fair thing to to share your food or to divide something equally like this. But if you're using even a word like fairly, like I'm fairly certain I should do something. Like I have a pretty good maybe 90% confidence level that I should do something. I'm fairly certain I should do something, or I'm fairly good at like playing the piano. So I'm not really good, I'm not horrible, I'm okay, I'm fairly good at it. And a lot of the words that you will learn, English learners are really focused on the vocabulary itself. When the vocabulary it's actually a less important part of the conversation for the meaning. So natives, like just look at these two examples. So if I say, yeah, I'm fairly good at cooking, I'm fairly good at cooking. So I'm feeling pretty confident with my tone. Yeah, I'm fairly good. My body language and the way I'm speaking, my tone, that communicates more meaning than just the vocabulary by itself if you read it, in a textbook or something like that. So I'm fairly certain, or I'm fairly good at cooking. Or I might say, yeah, I'm fairly good. I'm fairly good. So which one of those is more? Am I like fairly good, or am I fairly good? I'm saying the same thing, but my body language is much more important for understanding the meaning of my expression. Okay, so don't worry about the individual vocabulary, especially when you have like ranked words like that, like good, great, amazing, spectacular, wonderful. There isn't an actual list somewhere that all natives know. So don't worry about that. Your tone is going to, you can use that much better for communicating what you want to say rather than focusing on the individual words. But remember, I'm almost teaching this in a confusing way because you don't want to start with a particular word. We might begin with a word like fair, but then there's like the fair of like a traveling fair. Like I went to the fair where you go and play games and do things like that. All right? And there's also the fair. It's the same sound. So this is a fair, like a fair you have to pay money to do something. Okay? Fair. So when you're learning something, we don't want to just begin with a word, begin with a situation and work from that. All right, more comments. Good questions over here. All right, I think we got, okay, so Annie, hopefully I answered that correctly for it. How can you write a sentence using get by? Yes, I wrote one earlier. Go back and watch the video when this is finished. Argentina was a FIFA World Cup winner, and it was Messi. How amazing was that? Yes, very nice. Cyrus says, you are one of the best English teachers I've ever had. Glad to hear it. Hector, in fact, I think that you learn better talking and listening about topics than learning like at school. Yes, that's exactly correct. That's what I'm saying. And the even more interesting thing is that you don't have to speak. So right now you are not speaking to me, but you are learning from me. And if I'm doing a good job teaching, you will feel more fluent as I'm teaching you. All right, Juliana again. How about the feelings of pronounce some certain words? I mispronounce words quite a lot. How to develop this We need to learn IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet. No, again, the simple test for you is, does a native speaker do something? Does the International Phonetic Alphabet, is that something that natives learn in school? No, they don't. Like, I don't need to know the IPA to pronounce my own language correctly. It's helpful maybe as a person learning different languages and you want to compare them and have a way of looking at the different sounds. But there are basically two things about pronunciation that you need to know. So the first thing, I'll give a very quick, I know many people are interested in pronunciation, so I'll talk about this briefly. But I'll keep it very simple. I know pronunciation seems like a complicated thing, but it's really not. There are two ideas. The first one, in general, about conversations, is that it's the connection between words. So if you hear, like the example I gave at the beginning of this video about I can get by. Now I can get by, the pronunciation of the words change, or even an even better example is like that train. So just to give you only two words right here, very simple example. When you read this, it's two different words, that train. And I'm trying to pronounce them very clearly so you can hear the whole word, just a word by itself. So if I only say this word, or I only say this word, that train. But when we say them together, we've got two T's here. This one disappears, that train, that train, that train. And as you listen to more words, it's really the connection between the words that lets you pronounce things like a native. All right, so I talk about this in a program called Speak Like Me. This is the one rule for pronunciation that I teach. And again, the basic idea is that as you learn words, natives speak in phrases. So when you're connecting words together, rather than learning a lot of International Phonetic Alphabet or other things like that, you're just listening for the kind of patterns that you get in these examples. All right, so that's the first thing for pronunciation. The second thing is to understand the sounds of English the same way natives learn them. And as I give examples for learning different vocabulary, you learn, like the brain learns very well when it can compare different sounds. So often learners will make the mistake of getting a bunch of random words and hearing the pronunciation of those random words. So they might hear a word, they might get place, and then car, and then turtle, something like that. So they get a list of random vocabulary, and then they're trying to repeat after a teacher or whatever. The reason this is a bad way to learn pronunciation is because your brain doesn't really work that way. Your brain really needs a better target and a connection between different things to understand pronunciation. So remember, we have a word like fair, and the word by itself doesn't mean anything because there are many meanings for that word. So we need to have a situation where we use the word fair to understand what it means. All right. In the same way, rather than having a bunch of random vocabulary, we want to take something related and understand the sounds like a native speaker. So this is how we do that. So we begin with just something very simple. And I was just doing this with my youngest daughter, or my younger daughter, and I'm just having her read these different words so she can hear the difference in the sounds. So pap, pep, pip, pop, pup. And it doesn't matter if these are actual words or not. Like pep and pip, like it could kind of be words. They're like sound words, or you could talk about a person having a lot of pep, like a lot of excitement or energy. Pip, like it's not really a word, kind of, but the important thing is that you might hear this in something else, like like a player on the old Chicago Bulls team named Scottie Pippen, and so his name was P-I-P-P, Scottie Pippen. So we might have that piece of a word in something larger. But the important thing is we want to keep something very simple and then let your mind compare those things, and that's how your brain likes to learn. So everything else about this is the same. The only thing we're changing is this middle letter, pap, pip, pip, pop, pup. And as you hear that now you start, again, you get that feeling of correctness. So we could take this, and now maybe we could take like this this thing out of here and change the letter. And so if we have pap, and probably this is going to be cap over here. So we're keeping this the same. And it's not always like that. It's not always a rule that works the same way. But again, you learn the exceptions to rules as you learn. But this is how natives are learning the language. So they're not using the IPA to do this. They're learning everything all in English. You want to get as close to the language as possible. If you're trying to start from your language to learn translations, and then you learn grammar rules, and then you've got all these steps in your learning, then you will have all those steps in your speaking as well. You will have to think and translate in your head, and that's why so many people forget their words in conversations. All right? So this is what you learn to do as a learner. This is really the only thing natives are doing. So they're learning the sounds of words, and they're learning to connect those words together. All right? So that's the very simple understanding of pronunciation. If you'd like to learn more about this, you should get Frederick. I'll leave this up here. This is our app that shows you how to go through and do this whole process automatically. It's the first app of its kind to do this. Make sure that fits up there. So you can just search Frederick on our website. If you go there, you can learn more about that for pronunciation. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, let's see. All right, and okay. So yes, you got British and American IPA. Yes, again, you have different pronunciation. It's basically just learning a whole different language when you should just learn English directly. Could you explain about the difference between either and neither? Thanks. Yes, we did that already. All right, got it. Thanks, Hector. Francisco says, please answer my question. I don't know what question that was. I don't know. Should I listen to a particular? No, I don't know where that question went. I apologize. Let's see. So hello from Thailand. Good morning. From Sweden. How can I overcome the fears of speaking English without stress? Watch my previous video on YouTube. The previous live video I did last week. When I want to speak English, the Swedish language comes first, how to focus on English and speak well. The reason that you have Swedish, come out first is because you're learning English through Swedish. Or you're trying to learn a different language. I don't, if that's your native language, I'm guessing. If it's not, then you're still probably confusing different things because you're not learning English all in English. All right. It's possible to learn English without speak with a native speaker. Yes, absolutely. And so what I teach is that you don't need, right now you're learning from me without speaking to me. And you don't need to have a live native speaker or native English speaking friend in order to do that. So the important thing about all this, what I'm talking about, the feeling of fluency, is that you really understand something. That's the key. It's not about what you say. You can't just take like a word like cap and repeat that to yourself over and over again. That doesn't make you fluent. What makes you fluent is getting lots of different examples for situations, and that prepares you for real conversations. All right. So yes, and you absolutely can do that by yourself. This is what I teach. And if you'd like to learn how this process works, you can click on the link in this video. So click on the description link. It will tell you more about Fluent for Life. Karthi says, hello, Drew, been following you since 2017. Your videos are really great in use to me. Glad to hear it. IPA is taught in college, at least in my country, when people decide to enroll in a degree to teach English. It helped me a lot to improve my understanding. Yeah, so it can help. Like it's like anything else. Like if you have a thorough understanding of grammar rules as a teacher, that's helpful for you, but it's not necessary to learn English. And for most people, it will only make them more confused. Learning by topics or situations is a good way to learn any language. Yes, so this is not just about English, and we all learn any language the same way. So I gave the example before about the English teacher who teaches one way on YouTube, but then teaches their own kids a different way. And what I do is I teach you the same way I teach my own kids. So helping them understand, we begin with a situation, something happens, and my kids notice, oh, okay, Dad uses these words in that situation. And so that's how they start learning the language. They're not studying any textbooks or doing anything like that. What do you think about journaling to improve fluency? I suppose it's helpful, but as I talked about maybe 2 weeks ago, in the video about if you only have 15 minutes a day to learn, the important thing is to get as much input as possible. Trying to take, like writing down something or maybe telling stories or something or journaling, whatever, it's helpful. But the most thing, if you had to do just one thing to get fluent, it would be getting lots of varied input, what I call naturally varied review. All right. And Jonas says, hi, everyone. Look at that. We got through all the comments in under an hour. Fantastic. All right. Well, if anybody has any questions about this, we've actually covered a lot of different things. I wanted to give one final example of this. Some of you may have seen this before, but hopefully we do get a lot of new people coming and watching the channel. So I'll give you one more example of the feeling that you should feel when you're learning something. So whether you're writing in a journal or whatever, the best way, the fastest way to get this is getting lots of native input that really helps you understand something. So it's not just listening to a bunch of examples of vocabulary like from a list or reading a textbook or something. It's really understanding something very well. But I just want to give you an example of the kind of feeling that you should recognize or that you should know. This should be pretty powerful for you. So I'm going to teach you. This is one of my favorite examples for language teaching and helping you understand something like this. So I'm going to draw some characters from 1 to 9 on the board here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm going to give you an example of a different language. Imagine an alien language. This is not a real language. But I'll just give you a different example and see if you can memorize this. All right, just try to remember these. Okay, here we go. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm going to give you maybe, I'll see if anybody has any questions. I'll give you maybe 1 minute. Probably not even that long, but just see if you can memorize those. Now, what I'm doing right now is an example of kind of a bad language lesson. I'll show you why in a moment. But this is a typical thing that people are doing in a classroom or on a YouTube video where we give you one thing in one language and then we give you another thing in a different language and then try to help you understand that thing. All right? So you got 1, and that's 1. This is the the English or the Arabic numerals, and then we've got the alien language, the different language over here. All right? We'll give you one more second. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So now it's time for a quiz. So what people do, again, in a typical language lesson, or really just like instruction of most kinds, is they will give you something, and here's just a definition or an example of something, and don't really help you understand it. All right. So we got, let's see, 1, 6, 8, 4, 2, 3, 7, 5, 2, 9. Now, do you think you could translate this? I'll do the first one for you. Do you think you could do the other one of these, the other ones? All right. So someone said, let's see. Asina says it will take more than 1 minute to memorize. Yes. All right. So what are the other ones? Can anybody do this? It's okay if you can't. I don't expect you to actually do this. The point of this is I remember 3 numbers. All right? I only remember 3 numbers. All right. Now, if you can do that, that's fantastic. I can't. And it's okay if you can't. I don't expect people to do this. This is an example of how people usually teach, and this is why people struggle to communicate. So if I do a bad job of teaching you, then you will do a bad job of using the language. Does that make sense? All right? So it's my fault. It's my fault if I do a bad job of teaching you. All right? So it's a challenging test, yes. And you might think about that when you're in a language classroom and the teacher is trying to explain something, or I see this on YouTube all the time. There are native English speakers who give lots of examples but don't really help people understand. Or you're learning a language like it's a Japanese person explaining English through Japanese. And the students don't, it's like entertaining to watch that, but you're not actually getting fluent. Okay, so I'm not trying to be entertaining. Hopefully I'm entertaining. But my point is to really help you understand the language so you speak fluently. That's why you're here, hopefully. All right, so I just gave you that. I'm going to erase this so we can give you a different quiz. But let me put those numbers back up on the board here. So we'll put the numbers you do know because you've seen them many times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'll put these back up. Maybe you remember some of those. We'll see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oops, 1, 5, yep, 7, 8, 9, whoops, I'm confusing myself here, 6, 7, okay, pardon me. All right, so I remembered a 6, yes, so if you remembered some of those, fantastic. But let me give you let me again, the beginning of this video, I'm talking about the feeling you should have when you understand something. All right, you remember that? So that's the whole point of this video, is when you understand something and you can use it fluently, you get a feeling when you understand. It's like, I got it. All right, so I'm going to give you that feeling right now. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You see it? 1, 2, 3, 4. You feel that? As soon as you see it, you're like, I got it. Okay? So I'm taking something like this just to make it more understandable. And like this, now I could give you like 2, 6, 8, 10, 5, well, probably not 10. 10's not on here. But 3, 10. I can go on. I could give you 1,000 numbers. And by remembering this, by understanding this, then you would be able to translate that very easily. So it's not about like memorizing. It's about understanding the lesson. And this is just one example of a way of doing that. All right. Easy peasy. Very easy. All right. I think everybody got that. So when you're learning, if you're watching a video or a TV show, whatever, if you don't understand something, then you're probably wasting your time with that. But remember, usually it takes a few examples to really understand something. So as you learn, you might not understand the first time, so you need to get more and more examples. But if you watch a TV show or like YouTube video that teaches you one phrase or 10 phrases or something, and you don't see those phrases again, then you're wasting your time. Okay? So the point is to have that feeling where you're like, I got it. All right? So when you feel that, all right? So I can't remember even one example yet. But with this, okay, it's much easier to understand what's happening now. Okay? So the point is when you don't need to ask a teacher if you should learn in a certain way. It's just, is this helping me understand? Do I feel more fluent? I can produce the English sounds fairly well, but what will get me to fluency? So understanding like a native. When you understand like a native, you will speak like a native. Okay? There's only one way to do this. Like, it doesn't matter. I want to be clear. It could be you're getting it from a book or listening to someone or watching something. There are lots of ways to understand like a native. But the point is you should be understanding like a native. So instead of trying to learn through translations, we really want to help you understand something like the situation itself. So we begin with the situation and understand it like a native rather than learning like a student. And what's great about this is that you can do this anywhere, anytime, without having a native speaker there with you. As long as you're getting the native input, as long as you have someone like me helping you understand the language like a native, then you become fluent. That's how it works, all right? So you do not get fluent by trying to learn a bunch of words. You get fluent by understanding. I mean, even like you just start with one word, like sit, and you understand what that means. Like, okay, someone's sitting down, and that's the sound, that's the word they use when they do that action. Okay, I understand what's happening. Sit. I'm going to sit down. So here's a chair, and there's a person. Oh, look at that. He's sitting. He's sitting down. Okay? All right. Shun says, this is brilliant. Yes, again, it's this is how your brain wants to learn if you can just allow your brain to learn like that. So when you're watching, you hear a word, you see that, you connect the situation with the vocabulary, and you get many more examples. So you see somebody sitting on a couch, somebody sitting on a horse, somebody sitting on another person or whatever. You have different examples of those things. And that's how you really feel confident. Okay, now I feel confident about the vocabulary. I feel confident about the grammar. I feel confident about pronunciation. And that's when you speak fluently. And you don't need to have a native speaker there with you. You don't need a live teacher to do this. You just need to understand like a native. My drawings are funny. Yeah. Yes, I'm not the best artist. I'm not. So for every word is just building a mind map or a picture. It's not like building a mind map. The point is just to understand something, and you need usually multiple examples of something to understand it. But some things you just understand it directly. I'll give you an example. Maybe a lot of you have seen my just very quick example if I'm teaching Japanese to somebody. But this is how I would do it. Again, just like we compared the different sounds like pat, pip, pip, pop, and pup. I'm trying to help you understand something without using your native language, or without using English. I can help you understand Japanese. Maka, maka, maka. Aoi maka, ao, ao. Akai maka, aka, aka. Kuro, kuroi maka, kuro, kuroi maka. Aka, ao. Okay? Now, the first time you hear that, we're beginning with just a low level of understanding and letting your brain understand it. Okay, I understand like ao, aka, kuro. Okay? But without me having to tell you, your brain gets excited. It's like, I can understand that thing all in Japanese. So I just gave you a Japanese lesson the same way Japanese children are taught by their parents. Okay, so Japanese children are not using English to learn Japanese. They're not using Chinese, or they're not using whatever. The point is you're getting that. But you will forget that lesson if you don't get it again and again. So you still need to hear it multiple times to help you remember that, and then to feel very confident about pronunciation and using the grammar, that kind of thing. But even in that simple lesson, I've already taught you pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. Aka. Akai maka. Akai maka. Aka. Ao. Aoi. Aoi maka. Kuro. Kuroi. Kuroi maka. Kuroi kamikana. Is this black hair? Maybe it's maybe getting a little bit gray. But we can look at something like this. We move on to the next level, and it's like, okay, akai maka, maka, jishaku, 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 akai maka, akai jishaku. Okay? Now you can understand what I'm saying, even if you don't quite yet get it perfectly. You probably couldn't use it yet, but the point is you would, over time, over the course of listening to me, very quickly you would get fluent in Japanese. You would understand the language, you would feel confident about using it, all because of me, the way I'm teaching you. It's about me as a teacher helping you as a student. If I can make the language understandable, then you will become fluent automatically. Even if I could put a zipper on your mouth so you don't say anything, you would still get fluent. All right? So it's about understanding, not about having a native there or you speaking or you saying anything. All right? Now let's see what time it is. 11:30. Oh my goodness. All right, we've been going longer We will be bilingual, both English and Japanese. That's right. Got it, thanks. Would you save this video so I can listen again? Yes, so I make all these videos available so people can watch. The brain works better with images. Yes. Your drawings are funny. Yes. And so sometimes you'll have, like bad pictures or good pictures. There's lots of different examples you need to become a fluent speaker. Yeah, so Roger, so sitting on a chair, sidewalk, that kind of thing. And the point is, like, once you understand, like, okay, I know what sit means, now you can do something else. Or you can learn more difficult, like I could be standing here in a meeting, but I might be sitting in on a meeting. I'm sitting in on a meeting. It means I'm just like, there's a meeting happening and I'm coming to watch it. I'm just sitting in. So this is a more advanced phrasal verb, but once you understand what sit means, it's like, I'm kind of watching that or attending that thing, seeing what's happening. To sit in on a meeting or a class or something, all right? But the point is, you should understand like a native. If you can, like me, like I read like Japanese comic books to improve my Japanese. I don't need a native speaker there with me to help me learn. There's lots I can learn. And as I see more examples, it's like, oh, there's that word again. That means this. But I'm learning it all in Japanese. I'm not trying to learn it through English. All right? So that's the secret. The feeling is the secret. And so whatever you're doing to learn, whether it's watching TV shows or something, if you don't understand, if you're not, maybe you're watching more and more YouTube videos, but you're not feeling more fluent, it's because you're not getting the feeling that you need in order to speak. And without that feeling, you will not be confident, so you will not speak. All right, so Swedish is my second language. Yeah, I figured. As your native language is Farsi from Iran, but I love to speak English fluently, but cannot now. Have you a tip how I can speak more fluently without focusing on Farsi or Swedish? Yes, everyone should know the answer to this question. How can, maybe if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Azade or Azad, how can they speak fluently? You have to learn English all in English and understand it like a native. That's it. If you'd like to learn more about this, I think I will close the video down. We've got a lot of good questions so far today. You can click on the link in this video or below the video. To learn more about how this process works. Even if you do not join the program, you will know how to get fluent all by yourself if you look at that. All right. I'm really looking forward to your Japanese lessons as well. Yes, I will probably not be doing Japanese lessons, but if somebody teaches like that, yes, then that would be the way to learn. And I don't know, most people, there's so much content on YouTube or on the internet in general, but it's still just textbook learning. It's still using definitions and translations rather than just helping you understand like a native. But that's it. That's really the one way we get fluent. That's the way you got fluent in your native language. Remember, as a young child, you did not use like translations or writing or textbooks or anything to learn your native language. You just got understandable messages and lots of them from your parents. And as you got older, you got more things from TV shows or movies. You learned lots of things from people you have never met, like your favorite actors or people on your favorite TV shows or in your favorite books. You're learning all those things without personally meeting those people, but you're still getting more fluent because you understand everything like that. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, you can send us a mail at info@englishanyone.com or just comment below this video. But it's been a pleasure. Hopefully you've learned more and you get that understanding. The feeling is what you're going for. And if you'd like to learn more about Fluent for Life, for people who would like help, it is possible to do it by yourself. That's how I got fluent in Japanese. It took a long time, like trying to figure out how to do it. So if you're looking for faster results and you'd like to be speaking fluently in the next 30 days or less, get Fluent for Life and I'll show you how to do that. All right, looks like some last questions here. Rainier, today someone talked to me on the market. The person told me a few jokes. I couldn't understand even a word. I felt bad for a few minutes. I laughed, but honestly, I couldn't understand. Yeah, that's a very like common and like, yeah, we all do that. It's hard to seem like you're talking with someone and you don't understand what they're saying, and you're just like, yeah, I hope they don't ask me a question. And you feel really bad about that. But the point is, if you're prepared for that, if you're prepared like a native, then you don't have to experience that, and you will feel much more confident. So I experienced that a lot. An adult, you don't want to seem stupid or ignorant, or you don't know what you're talking about, because you can speak your regular native language, but when you try to speak a different one, it's like you go down, many levels of education or whatever. All right, but this is what we help you do in Fluent for Life. Russell, I just bought Fluent for Life. Is it enough to just listen to it? Well, you will do some writing as well. You will do some watching, listening, reading. You will do all of that because, again, the naturally varied review is what gets you fluent. So we don't want you to just hear something one time. You should write it. You should see it, listen to it, watch it, and maybe even teach it to somebody else. But the more times you get that, the more it really becomes a part of you. And remember, we're just simulating how you learned your native language. So Fluent for Life is also about focusing on particular topics and really learning those rather than trying to learn a bunch of vocabulary. Remember that young kids, they can often speak better than adult English learners, even though those adult English learners know more words. So a larger vocabulary doesn't make you a fluent speaker. And if you're still learning more words, but you're not becoming more fluent, then stop learning more words. That's not what you need to become a fluent speaker. Go read this. Click on the link in the video, and you'll learn more about that. But thank you for joining the program. If you'd like to just remember, focus on a particular lesson. You'll spend about a month on each lesson set, but you can choose which lesson sets you learn with, and then just follow the daily schedule. So on the first day, you would just watch the video for the grammar focus, and then the next day you would just listen to that and then try to read and write some of that as you go through the lessons. So it's really take your time, and that's, again, the point is fluency. It's not just trying to learn more and build your passive vocabulary. We want you to feel confident and really understand everything. When will the next live be? Probably next week around the same time. Okay, let me get this straight. So you were saying that this method could be applied to all languages. Awesome. We owe you one. Yes. So we all learn any language the same way. That's how we all get fluent. There are lots of different ways to learn languages, but like language acquisition, where you actually become a fluent speaker of that, this is how you do it. And so this is how you got fluent in your native language, and it's how you will get fluent in English or French or Spanish or whatever you learn. All right. Most jokes are hard to understand because it's related to the culture of the country. Yes, that's true as well. But even aside from jokes, you will have just regular conversations where if you don't understand what people are talking about, it can be very difficult and frustrating. All right, I'm going to lose my voice, and I'm running out of time for this broadcast, but thank you for joining me. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, if you'd like to learn more about Fluent for Life, if you are the kind of person who needs English, you want to become fluent as fast as possible, that's what we do. All right, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.